Hi, everybody. I'm Hannah Tenbound. Thanks again for attending this conference today, Leadership in a Remote World. We're so happy to have you all with us. Just wanted to go over housekeeping before the presentation starts. So we ask that you keep your mics muted, and if you have any questions, you can drop them in the Q&A. And Kevin's going to try to answer them as he goes, or capture some at the end. And so, yeah, without further ado, Kevin Dorsey with PatientPop, and the presentation is Anyone Out There Cold Calling Update. Thanks, Kevin.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, Hannah. Awesome, y'all. Appreciate jumping on here. Word on the street is people will jump in as this kind of goes. I think some people are getting out of the last session. So, I'll kick this off here in 1 minute. We'll give people a chance to get in here and get out of the waiting rooms. But for those of you that haven't seen me present before, I like to go quickly. I like to be super tactical, right? So this isn't just going to be high level fluff or anything like that. Like, we're going to be getting into scripting. We're going to be getting into objection handling, real world examples, the whole mix. But also my style is this isn't kindergarten, y'all. If you have a question, ask it. This isn't like one of those save your questions for the ends type setup. Like, if you want to have a question, you want me to go more specific, you have a disagreement, throw it in the chat or the Q&A, and I'll try to address it as I go. This isn't something you have to wait for at the end. And I guess while we're waiting, no one's here for my backstory. Doesn't really matter. Kevin Dorsey, VP of Inside Sales at PatientPop. I lead the SDR and the inside closing org there. My team is just under 70 right now, and probably going back up to around 100 by the end of the year. Prior to that was at Service Titan and Snack Nation. And I'm a builder, y'all. I go in and I build things. I build systems and processes that allow teams to scale, and it's what I really enjoy. And I'm a cold caller through and through. I'm a prospector through and through. And so I think this is a topic that, is near and dear to heart. And so we'll dive into it here. And again, if you have questions, ask away as we do go through this so that I can answer them as they go. So the question, right? Everyone loves to talk about this. Is cold calling dead? Is cold calling dead, right? This idea that, is it dying? Nope, it's not dead. Cold calling is not dead, but it is dying. Cold calling is dying, and it breaks my heart to have to say that out loud, but it is the case. And hopefully there's not too much background noise for y'all right now. They, of course, started to try to do some drilling right as I tried to kick this off. So cold calling is dying, right? But this is why. Anything left unattended, unfed, and unnurtured will die. Anything. Right? And that's part of what's happening to cold calling, is it's not being attended to, is not well fed, it is not being nurtured, right? But if you think about it, all prospecting channels are dying. And if you think about what it means for something to be dying, it means not growing, not thriving. There is one channel in terms of cold prospecting, outbound prospecting, that is better now than it was 2 years ago. Connect rates are lower, response rates are lower, open rates are lower, click rates are lower, videos are lower. Like, each one of these channels is dying, meaning it's getting harder and harder to do, which is also why we have to focus on it more. These are just the facts of the matter. I think all of y'all know this. How do you respond when someone cold calls you? How many emails do you respond to now, right? So things are getting harder, but it doesn't mean it doesn't work. And this is where a lot of people have caused cold calling to die, because they gave up on it too early and they didn't get good at it, right? And so this still works. It absolutely still works. And there's right and better ways to do it. Now, let's talk about why it's so hard though. So this is the first part, fear. People are afraid. Let's just call it what it is, y'all. Like, we're all salespeople here. We can talk to each other. We're in the nest. Like, people are afraid to make cold calls. They're afraid of rejection, which we're going to talk about towards the end of this presentation as well. There's this fear factor of afraid to pick up that phone and do it. Also, a lot of people should be afraid because they were never properly trained on how to do it. There's not a lot of great training being given by so many companies out there on how to properly cold call. Two, it's a slightly different buyer now, right? So if people talk about like buyers are more educated now, They are, right? But it's not so much that they're more educated, it's that they can get information faster. Prior to G2 and the internet and reviews and things like that, like the only way to get information about a company was through a salesperson. So it wasn't the worst thing in the world to talk to a salesperson. But now, as soon as I know your company name, I'm Googling you. I'm going to your website. I'm reviewing your competitors, right? So there's a different buyer. And also too, I don't know the makeup of the crowd here and the age demographic, but especially the millennial generation and then also Gen Z that's coming up, they have a stronger aversion to the phone. They just do. And so it's a different type of buyer. Now they prefer a text message over a phone call. They prefer a video snippet over an hour-long demo, right? These are things we need to understand. Noisy, right? So now as a VP of sales at a startup with almost 100 sales reps, I probably get anywhere from 7 to 10 email messages a day from sales reps trying to sell. Right? I get pinged on LinkedIn probably 7 to 10 times a day, right? All these things are happening. My phone actually probably only rings 1 time a day, if that, from a cold call. There's so much more noise out there, which is making it hard. Misaligned messaging, right? You're doing it, but it's not landing because your messaging isn't good. Timing and luck, and this is with cold calling that I think people forget. What are the people you're calling doing when you're calling? You ever thought about this for a second? If you're trying to cold call me, what am I doing during the workday? I am working. You have to time it perfectly to get that cold called answered. This is what people forget all the time is that the timing of a cold call is really important. What are the odds that you're going to catch me in that 1 30-second window where I wasn't in a meeting, wasn't with my team, or wasn't working on something already, right? So that also makes it hard, is you have to time it well. And it's one of those high volume for low results activity, but I have to say low with an asterisk because it's not low, right? 0 is low. 1 is way better than 0. 2 is better than 1. 3 is better than 2. Like it can add up to great things, right? Because I believe the future belongs to it, right? Future belongs to the people that are smart callers, right? Because it's hard, many people won't do it. Actually, Derek just called this out in the Slack, or the, not Slack, what is it, chat here. Like people don't believe it works. And so where they don't believe it works, they don't do it. Because people don't do it, this actually is a massive opportunity for everybody who is willing and able to do it. Right? Who's going to win in the long run? Someone who is able to make a cold call or someone who is not? Someone who's willing to put themselves out there or someone who's not? Quick heads up, all my salespeople. If it was just as easy as sending out templated emails, I wouldn't need salespeople. I'm just going to let that hang for a second. If all it took to sell multi-million-dollar contracts, multi-six-figure contracts, to land all these deals was just templated, we wouldn't need salespeople. This is why we need y'all. This is why we're here. It's to do the hard part of the job. Please write that down. We are paid the money we are paid for the hard part, not the easy part. Yes, cold calling is hard. That's why they pay us to do it, y'all, right? We win in the long run if we're willing to be the people willing and able to do the hard stuff. Who's going to produce more revenue, right? SalesLoft actually released a study a few years ago that showed multi-channel approach is 91 more effective than a single channel approach when it comes to prospecting. 91% more effective with a multi-channel approach. Meaning if you were doing call only or email only, you were 91% more effective if you combined them. If you do them separately, your results suffer. You have to be able to do it, all right? You have to be able to, right? Now, people are starting to throw in some of the chats and stuff here, like, I love cold calling, I love cold calling. I'm gonna be honest, y'all, I don't love cold calling. I don't love it, but I do relish in it. I do say this is part of me. I do know that separates me from the pack. I do know that it leads to more revenue. And that's also why I spent so much time trying to get good at it. Because quick tip, I would love y'all to write this down. The better you are at something, the less you have to do it. The better you are at something, the less you have to do it. So if you don't like to cold call, get really good at it and you have to do less. Different way of thinking about it, okay? Now, I want to dive into some of the key cold calling metrics here, right? Because there's certain things you do want to pay attention to within the metrics of cold calling. They are connect rate, conversion rate, and then your total activity, right? And this is really, really important because this helps you find out how many cold calls you should be making. So your connect rate, that's for every 100 dials, how many times do you connect with the type of person you're trying to connect with, right? So we call it DM connect, okay? For every 100 calls, how many DMs do you actually get on the phone? Then you have your conversion rate. For every 10 DMs you get on the phone, how many can you get to agree to a meeting? Those two numbers right there can tell you exactly how many calls you should be making, right? So quick example, if you have this, right? If you have this 5% connect rate and a 20% conversion rate, that means you will need to make 100 calls to get one meeting. Just math. That's all it is. You talk to 5 out of 100, 20% equals 1. What we do in sales oftentimes is we do enough of something for it to suck, but not enough of it to get the results. We'll do enough of it that it sucks, but not enough of it to actually get the right results, right? Think about this real quick. The example I just gave you, 5% connect rate, 20% conversion rate, which means you need to make 100 dials to get one meeting. Guess how many meetings you get if you make 82 dials? Any guesses? How many meetings do you get if you make 82 dials? You get 0. What about 84? What about 88? What about 96? The point I'm making is you did enough of it for it to suck, enough of it for you have to feel it, enough of it to not enjoy it, but not enough of it to get the end result that you're looking for. So this is why knowing your metrics is so important, because also it helps you know where you need to focus. If you can improve your connect rate from 4% to 5%, or from 5% to 7%, or you get your conversion rate from 20% to 30%, you have to do less dials to get to the numbers you're trying to get to, right? You need to know your numbers. This is not just, right? Like for some reason, sales is now starting to get a bad rep of like, sales isn't just a numbers game. So much more than that. Well, yeah, sales is a numbers game. Skills drive the numbers. Y'all just showed me. I told you, connect rate 5%, conversion rate 20%, 84 dials, you get 0 meetings. That is the math of sales. We have to be willing to understand what skills drive those numbers. And then that's what gets us to where we need to be. So this is why I wanted to start with activity. No one likes to talk activity anymore. It's like this cliche thing to talk about, but it's like, it's just math, y'all. It's just math. And oh my goodness, Michael Tuso, compound effect. This is huge, okay? Remember I gave the 84 dials? What if you make 84 dials on Monday and 2 dials on Tuesday? Now your average is 40. You're not getting 86 a day. You're doing 40 per day. You're not letting it add up. You have to let this compound to get to where you want to be, all right? So this is the first thing you gotta be honest with yourself. Are you actually even doing enough to see the results that you're looking for? Before you write off whether it's working or not, are you actually doing enough of it for it to work? Food for thought, okay? So now let's start getting into the best practices, because what I was saying here, these numbers, connect rate and conversion rate, those are skill metrics. The better you are at certain things, the better your connect rate or conversion rate will. Activity is a will thing. Are you willing, right? But let's talk about the skill now. Let's talk best practices, okay? Because there are certain things that have been proven to work better, right? Certain things that are proven to work better when making cold calls. First of all, tonality, which we're gonna talk about, how you sound, right? Next, prepared and are you relevant? Preparation and relevance. Are you prepared to make that call? And do you have relevant information to share? Okay. Permission-based and questions. Frequency. It's almost like Michael Tuso and I may have worked together in a past life. I don't know, but frequency. But it's not just the frequency of us. Prospecting is also about building awareness to your prospect. I told y'all before, shoot, some of y'all have my number. Some of y'all on here have my number. Call me right. Call me right now. Am I going to answer? No. Is that because cold calling doesn't work? No. It's because you didn't catch me in the right time. The frequency of seeing a number and seeing a name increases the likelihood that they will actually engage with you. Timing and consistency. Quick heads up, y'all. People know this, but then they don't do anything with it. What's a better time to call? Start of the day or middle of the day? What do y'all think? What's a better time to try to catch someone? The start of the day or the middle of the day? You have a better shot in the start. But does that mean you don't call in the middle? Of course not. But trying to call right at lunch may not be as good as the start of it, right? So the timing, but then being intentional with your timing and switching it up, trying to find those gaps. But this is the key, y'all. Messaging trumps everything. Some people are throwing in here like, oh, both times are the good times to call. Yeah, maybe. Right? I can tell you I'm way easier to get in touch with before all the meetings start, before I'm in back to back, right? But also I know, for a great example, calling on the 30s is better than in the middle, because in the middle of the 30s, I'm probably in the meeting. At the top of the hour, I may have just gotten out of one. I might be walking. I might have my phone out, right? But messaging trumps everything, because if you get me on the phone and your messaging is bad, none of the other things matter, all right? So this is what I'll start on first. Problem-based language. You need to nail the problem-based language. Your prospecting messaging needs to be about the problems you solve, not your product. The amount of times I do get a sales rep on the phone and they're like, hey, KD, I was hoping to get 15 minutes of your time to share with you our revolutionary, groundbreaking, innovative platform that's been proven to 5x your pipeline and 4x your conversion rates and actually help your oldest child speak better Spanish. You're like, God, dang it, right? And it's just this blah out there about the product. That isn't what's going to be what will land. For any of like my OGs in the game who have read, you know, The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes, my dude, he talked about this pyramid, where for any product, you have 3% of the market that's interested in looking and 7% of the market that's interested but not looking. Meaning if you say, hey, how many of y'all are looking for a new car right now? About 10% of you might say, I am, right? How many of y'all are looking for a new mattress? How many of y'all are thinking about moving? How many of y'all need new shoes? How many of y'all want a new watch? Like, you have this 10% that are interested in the product. That's not where you make your money. If you can only sell to the top 10%, that's not a salesperson. You make your money in the next 30%, which are apathetic to your product, but interested in the problems that your product solves, right? That's what matters. So if you call me with any product and say, are you interested in this product? You have a 90% chance that the answer is no. But if you talk about the problems that you know I probably have as a prospect that your product solves, now you've gotten into that next bucket, which is apathetic to your product, but interested in what the problems that could be solved, right? So your cold call messaging needs to mirror this. You need to be talking about the problems that you may be solving. Because also, y'all, if they don't have a problem for you to solve, should you sell to them? If they don't have a problem, you can't sell to them, right? And Tracy's starting to know this here. How do you find out if they have problems? You gotta ask questions. But if you know your persona well, you should know what problems they are strongly likely to be dealing with, right? So, what are the 3 problems that your product solves? This is your first exercise here. You need to write this down. What are the 3 core problems that your product solves? Not what your product does, right? So I use the example like increase pipeline. That is not solving a problem. That is an increase. What's the problem it solves? Well, it solves low pipeline. That already is a difference in language. But then the next part of that is like, okay, well, why do people have low pipeline that your product solves? Well, maybe it's because they're making fewer dials. Okay, so you don't increase pipeline. You help solve the low dial. issue. Well, why are reps not making enough dials? Well, maybe because they're not prepared. So you don't actually solve the low dial issue. You help the lack of preparation issue, which causes low dials, which is leading to a lower pipeline generation for the company. Slightly different messaging than we can 2x your pipeline. So you have to know what are the core 3 problems your product solves. This is the foundation of your messaging, right? These are the things you need to start talking about. Once you have that down, now we get to tonality. How you sound, especially over the phone, right? Because your tone drives everything, right? So we actually teach tonalities in our scripts of different places your tone should sound. Because over the phone, they can't see your body language. All they can do is hear you. So they're reading into everything off of how you sound, right? How you sound. Lost in the City. This is what we like for our intros, right? Hey, Tuso, this is KD over at Chili Piper. I was actually just speaking with one of your managers and was hoping you could help me out real quick. Do you got a sec? Okay, this lost in the city. You're looking for help. You're hoping someone can help you out. You sound like, right? Like, I need some help here, okay? Pizza dough. These are the questions you're throwing out, right? We call it the pizza dough because of what you do with your hands. So, Tuso, I was wondering, like, how are you helping your reps prep right now so they're not wasting time throughout the day trying to figure out what they're trying to do, right? Like, that's the tonality. You're kind of just like, hey, I'm curious, right? This is what you're putting out there for your tone. I'm just curious. The might make sense. Right? Might make sense is where you're doing your value prop, right? This is a little bit like that escalation of like, I think this might make sense. Like, you're struggling with X and you're dealing with Y, which is causing Z. I mean, this might make sense for you. I mean, could we? And then you go to the next one, right? And this is the excited to help. And this is the one that if everyone could just bottle this up, you got to remember, y'all, you're trying to help people. That's what you're doing. And it's not cliche. It's the honest to God truth. You are trying to help someone solve a problem. Notice how this shifts your mindset though too. Trying to sell them a product or book a meeting versus solve a problem. If you're solving a problem, you're helping them, right? You're helping them. You got to be excited to help them out this, and you have to practice these tonalities. That is the key to this. You got to practice it, right? You will never sound good the first time that you do it, because also 2 SDRs and my AEs, right? You get someone on the phone. You don't think I can tell you were not expecting me to answer? And then it's like, hey, KD, it's Michael over at Chili Piper. How you doing today? Like, oh, damn it. Master your tonalities. Master your tonality. It's so important, okay? So your tones are a part of a great cold call, right? And it's excited to help. I can see people talking about in the chat here, like, remember this, Sean. They're there to help. That's what you're here for. You owe it to them to help. That is what we do, okay? So now we got to actually make sure we're saying the right things though. So you got to speak the prospect's language. This is just hilarious to me. Salespeople, I don't know what's up with y'all. We say things that no one else says. Like, we ask questions the way no one else would ask a question. Put on this weird persona of a salesperson. We stop talking the way that we should. You need to learn how to speak your prospect's language, because most cold callers sound like a cold caller. You sound like it. You sound different. You sound weird. You sound scared. You don't sound like someone they would want to talk to. You gotta use the language your customer does. And there's a very easy way to find this out. So if you wanna make your scripts better, and don't worry, we're gonna talk about scripts. You're gonna go talk to 50 customers. You're gonna record these calls and you're gonna ask these questions. Why did you? You're gonna find out what the real value prop is for your product. What problems were you hoping to solve? This is where you create your problem-based questions. What were you afraid of before buying? This is where you learn about the unspoken objections that your prospects often have. What's your favorite part? This is where you get the impact statements. What's changed the most? Now you got some micro stories and micro testimonials. And how would you describe what we do? You get the language from the customer, right? This was something that I actually experienced directly when I came over to PatientPop, listening to a bunch of calls and after talking to a bunch of customers. The way our reps were describing PatientPop, they said, what is PatientPop? Oh, we are an all-in-one practice growth platform. Quick poll for the crowd. How many doctors do you think describe PatientPop to me as an all-in-one practice growth platform? Any guesses? right? That's not how they talk, but that's how we were talking. That's why we sound so ridiculous on the phone, right? What is this about? Oh, we're an all-in-one practice growth platform optimized for today's day and age of the patient journey now moving online. Jesus, that's not how they talk, right? You have to listen and hear how they talk. So this is an assignment. I challenge y'all to do this. You will be a better cold caller if you go do this. If you go actually talk to some customers and write down all these answers, your scripts will already be better because it's going to help you set up your gap questions. So I can't remember who said it earlier. I think it was Tracy said it earlier. You can't just tell them they have a problem. You have to ask to find out if they do. And the best way to do that is through a gap question, right? So when you get past your intro, you have to have 2 to 3 core gap questions you're going to ask. A gap question helps expose a hole or a gap in their current process of what they want and where they are. It sells without selling and helps build curiosity, because I wouldn't ask you this question if I didn't have a way to solve it, right? So it looks something like this. How are you blank so that blank bang isn't happening? And then you give 3 core leads. So actually I can do this. Now, see, I love it when Tuso jumps on this because I know Tuso so well and I know his company, right? So if I'm doing something for Chili Piper, I say, so how are you managing the round robin process for your AEs right now that people aren't getting more or less than they should or aren't getting skipped over? Like, are you using a spreadsheet? Are you automating it right now? Like, is it just kind of helter-skelter? Like, how are you doing that? That question right there is a gap question. How are you managing the round robin process for your AEs so that the bad thing that happens if you aren't, uneven leads, misallocation, too much, too low, and then 3 core leads. Like, what's the most common people are doing? Spreadsheet, automation. You don't do it, it's just kind of all over the place, salesforce.com. That's an example of a gap question, right? How are you blank so that blank isn't happening? And 3 core leads. This is why knowing the 3 main problems earlier I talked about is like, how are you solving this problem right now? Because if you don't have this problem, we don't need to talk anyway. So this is how you set up a gap question. You want to have 2 or 3 of these ready to expose if there is a problem or not. Because if the response back is like, oh, like we're paired 1-to-1, we don't have to do round robin. Oh, all right, well, that's cool. But I guess how are you making sure people are showing up to the meetings? Like, do you have a good reminder system in place right now to make sure people are actually showing up? Oh yeah, dude, like our show rate's 100% right now. Well, geez, okay. Well, Chili Piper helps with round robin. Chili Piper helps with show rate. Dude, okay, dude, KD, last question. Like, how are you making sure that the inbound leads that are coming to your website are converting at that rate where you don't have to chase them down? They just book time with your calendar. Well, I guess we don't really have a way to do that. Maybe we should talk, right? You would find the problem and you can go from there. So those are your gap questions, all right? So this will be $1,000 consulting, by the way. All right, so now we're gonna talk scripting. We're gonna talk scripting. Yes, you should have a script. Gasp, oh no, scripts are awful. Not true. Scripts make me sound robotic is probably one of the my most favorite things I hear salespeople say. Quick heads up, y'all. You sound robotic. The script is a piece of paper, okay? A script doesn't sound anything. How many of y'all have ever gone to a movie? Anyone ever gone to a movie? How many of y'all have listened to a song on the radio or on YouTube? Guess what, y'all? Those were all scripted. They were all written down. They all started on a piece of paper and someone practiced it and made it come alive. It is not the script's fault if it doesn't sound good. It's on us to make it sound good. You need to have a game plan for your calls because we also know if connect rates are low, you only get one shot at me. You only get one shot at me. You need to be prepared with what you're going to say. You need to have a structure and a guide. It's your job to make it come alive, right? You get no bonus points for not using a script and failing. That doesn't help anybody, right? So I wanted to actually give y'all some scripting here. So I said the intro script for cold call, call it KPIC, okay? KPIC is kind of my reference point for how to build a good intro script on a cold call. Here's what you know, the problem for the persona, the potential impact of it, and a call to action. So what that could look like. Hey KD, it's Bob from Superbiz. I read, saw, heard, spoke to. This is where I'm putting something I know, right? I know something, right? I know something about you or your team. A lot of VPs are dealing with XYZ problem, which is causing XYZ impact. Could I ask you a couple quick questions? Does that sound like your world? Have you solved this or not? And there's your call to action. This is set up for a great cold call because one, you get the who are you and where are you calling from out of the way. Two, you build relevance by saying, I know something about you, your team, or your company. You use a reference point problem that goes, okay, you do understand my world. And then you get permission to continue the call, right? Whether you do you have 27 seconds to talk to me, or did I catch you at a bad time, or whatever. Notice how I don't have that in here. Hello, it's Kevin. Hey, KD, it's Bob over at SuperBiz. I was actually just speaking with one of your managers last week, and I heard that you're having a hard time hitting some of the dial numbers that you're trying to hit right now, which is causing, the pipeline not to be where it is. We help some VPs with this. Could I ask you a couple quick questions, see if it's even worth us continuing a conversation? Would that be okay? No fluff, no gimmicks, nothing crazy. Straight to the point about problems that I probably am willing to hear about, maybe how to solve it. So it's a great intro on this, right? Your intro is there, and Tyler caught it. You hear the tone there? The tone of that question is very genuine and very honest because it's what you're trying to do to help. You got your intro. Now let's talk objection handling super quick. I'm coming up on time. I was trying to cover a lot for y'all. I'm sorry I'm going late, but I'm trying to give y'all as much juicy stuff as I can. The objection handling, right? One of the things we teach is 8-miling. 8-miling is getting ahead of the objection. So for all my cold callers out there, if there's a very common objection you get, say it first. The reason why I call it 8 Mile is because of what Eminem did in the movie 8 Mile. The last part of that movie, he's a battle rapper. He's going head to head with another rapper, and he says all the bad things about him first. And it takes all the power away from the other person. So if you say it first, it takes the sting away from you. Because what do we do when we get objections, y'all? We fold more often than not. I don't care what y'all say. The majority of y'all fold. Pitch goes up, right? Everything goes through it. You have to make sure that you are prepared. But if you say it first, it takes the sting away. It actually builds trust because you are saying what they are thinking, and it keeps you in control, right? I know you weren't expecting this call. I know you hate cold calls. I know you're already using somebody. I know you're not interested yet. Say the objection. Take it away so that you are the one that stays in control in the entire process, right? That's what's really, really important. Right? So I see this here, right? It's like the difference between a scripted call and a movie is that on the call, only one person has access to the script. So yeah, have a script. You also need to have conversational skills. Absolutely. That's why the beauty of sales and actually perfect with objection handling, we know how most of these calls are going to go. We know how most of them are going to go, especially if we stay in control of what we are doing, right? You need to be able to listen. You need to be able to go through things and go through it, right? So here's what I want to do. One of the most common objections that we fail, the what do you do? What do you do? What is this call about? Right? This is what I mean, or actually, I'm going to go back to Eddie's point here because I think it's important. We got 80 people on here. I already know most of y'all deal with this objection, and I have no idea what you sell. Right? We know what the majority of the things we're going to run into on a cold call are. So I wanted to show you this one, the what do you do objection, right? What do you do? This is where we fail the most, right? Because we start talking about our product. Here's your formula. Well, you know how? Relevant problem, right? So I'll say like how we do it with PatientPop. Well, you know how you'd never go past the first page of Google for anything? Or if something has a bad review on Amazon, you don't buy it? Well, patients are the same way. It could be causing Dr. Bob and Jenny to be missing out on patients. We help solve that for the right people. It might not make sense for you. I mean, how are you solving blank problem right now? Having that ask ready to go right afterwards, keep the conversation going, right? So to wrap up on this, I did want to touch on this real quick with dealing with rejection, because it is a big part of what happens when you're cold calling. It does hurt. I'm not going to say anything about that. It does not hurt. Getting rejected hurts. And when someone says just let it slide off your back, it doesn't work that easily, right? I get it. I've been there. I am a former SDR. I've been in those shoes. I've been cold calling for the last 15 years. I know that it hurts, but here are some ways to actually help with it, okay? 1, meditation and gratitude. If you have a strong meditation practice and a strong gratitude practice, it helps control your emotions better. You don't have the same peaks and valleys, and you're able to see more good things happening on a day-to-day basis. So a great meditation and gratitude practice helps deal with the rejection that's going to come. Get up and move. Get up and move. When you get rejected, it releases cortisol into your body, the stress hormone, right? It actually has a physical pain to it. Get up and move, right? Get some dopamine coming into your system. Get some sunlight, right? Share and laugh. Share and laugh about it. These were my favorite calls to share as a prospector. It's like, yo, Tuso, I got rocked. Like, they got me. I was not ready. Listen to me. I'm about to get cussed out. They cussed me out right there. Like, laugh through it, right? Make light of the situation and laugh at it. Point out what you did wrong and you move on. This is something, right? You wouldn't expect to maybe from me. Go watch something funny. Go watch something funny on YouTube, TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram. I don't even have all these things. Go watch something funny. What you're trying to do is offset the cortisol spike. You have cortisol releasing in your body, and if you just sit in it, it builds and you have no release. Watch something funny for 2 to 3 minutes and then get back into it, right? Remember though, if they're declining help, you can't feel bad about that. Like if you came up to me and was like, yo, here's $10. I go, nah. Like you shouldn't feel rejected. It's more so like, dude, like, I just don't even understand why you're not letting me help. Remember, they're rejecting the help. They're not rejecting you or your product. I know it sounds cliche, but it's the truth. And if you can remember that, it helps you get through the rejection. If you're just trying to help them and they decline that help, there's nothing else you can do about it, all right? And to wrap on this, practice more than you play, y'all. You should be practicing daily, 10 to 15 minutes at a minimum, high repetition and chunky, right? You only get one shot with me. If you get me on, you have to be better. This is where, remember the connect rates I talked about at the beginning? If you have a 5% connect rate, that means for every 100 calls, you get to talk to one of me. If you're only talking to one of me a day, you know how long it's gonna take for you to get good at your messaging? Versus if you are practicing for 10 to 15 minutes per day, so when you get me on, you are ready, right? This is something I started saying a few years ago, and I'm gonna stick with it for the rest of my life. The best practice on purpose, the rest practice on prospects. If you want to be the best, you practice on purpose. If you aren't practicing on your own and you get me on, you are practicing with me, and now you're practicing with money. You don't want to do that. Do not be the rest, be the best, all right? So with that, y'all, this is where I think it's going. I think cold calling, and with an asterisk, is almost completely gone in the next 5 to 10 years. I believe calling becomes more dynamic and behaviorist, meaning you are calling people because of what they've done. No more just static day 2 call, day 5 call. You're talking about like calling the right people at the right times because they did something. They opened some email, they clicked on something, they watched something, they started reaching, they were on G2. I think it becomes more dynamic based on what they are doing versus what we want to do, right? This whole idea that I'm just gonna call you on day 1 and day 5, it helped give us some structure, but that's not how people communicate. You probably should have called that person again on day 3 because after getting their email, they clicked on it, they went to your website and they started researching on the web. Are you really gonna go wait 5 more days before you call them? This is where I think calling goes to, is more of a dynamic if-then type setup. Emails warm up calls, calls warm up emails, they work in tandem. It's almost like an outbound marketing approach, not just a pure cold call. So with that, y'all, cold calling can be your competitive advantage. 100% can be your competitive advantage. I actually heard on a podcast a while back that the cold callers are gonna be the Navy SEALs of the future. The true tip of the spear, the one that you're sending in after hours, the ones that went through all the grind and they have a skill set that no one else has. Cold calling becomes your competitive advantage, but you gotta make sure you're doing enough of it. That's why I started off with the math. Master the problems and language of your prospects. Questions help you sell. Practice more than you play. Have some fun with this, y'all. It really can be fun. It can truly change your career if you're good at it and do it on a daily basis. So with that, we hit our time. If you have questions, follow up with me on LinkedIn. I do have a Patreon group as well where I do more of these trainings. But to my cold callers, to my prospectors, I love you. Later.
Thank you, Kevin. Awesome. There were some questions about the slides and recordings. Both will be available soon. Keep in touch with Tenbound, and I'm not sure exactly when they'll be available. There is another session in right now that you can jump over to, unifying sales development and RevOps in a remote setting. And then the final session at 2:10, Rise of the CSDOs. So you can head over to the arena to check out the booths, and 2 more sessions. Thanks so much. Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, y'all.